evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of the Speak the Truth podcast. As always, I am your host, Matt Tardio. We're going to be taking a look over at the Middle East today and see exactly how the United States and the UK, believe it or not, are lined up to strike Iran, and whether or not these peace talks that we've heard about are actually going to go through for the week, because somebody inside of Iran decided to open their mouth and push their propaganda, and it most certainly doesn't look like there is going to be any peace talks later this week. I'm going to tell you when the rumors are that the U.S. is actually supposed to be striking Iran. So I hope you guys are ready for that, and I hope you guys are ready to see the massive amount of military that we built up over there, and also what Iran's been up to as well. Now, back here in the United States, of course, we're a little bit worried about everything else. God forbid we pay attention to the world-changing stuff that's about to take place. What's going to go down over inside of Iran is going to reshape the entire Middle East. Make no mistake about it. And yet there is yet not even a blip on the radar here in America, which blows my mind. But, it did make the radar. The United States blowing up more drug runner boats today. Yep, that ended up happening. We ended up coming out making an announcement. There's 3 guys on board. We blew it up again down on the side of the Caribbean. 2 guys ended up dying. Only this time we decided to make sure the Coast Guard got dispatched to go pull the last remaining drug runner off of it so everybody can cool their pants. Poor old narco terrorists are still alive. Always last in line, coming in bright and early, gifting out a Speak the Truth membership. Thank you very much, sir. And even though he's not everybody's favorite, I'm just going to go ahead and bring this one up. Everybody's quasi-favorite, Trey Yinks. I don't even want to call him anybody's favorite, but I'm going to end up cutting him off a little bit short. And Knack Dad, appreciate you coming in and gifting out 99 doll hairs. And let's go ahead and see what he has to say for an update, and then we're going to see how accurate he is.
Sandra, good afternoon. Indirect nuclear talks are set to resume this week between the United States and Iran in Oman. Iranian officials have ruled out discussing their country's ballistic missile program, but do appear open to finding a diplomatic solution to avoid a large war.
Yeah, and we can start there with they are scheduled. There has been no scheduled announcement for these talks that I have been capable of finding, and I've been searching high and low all day, because I keep hearing people saying that they're scheduled for this week, but scheduled normally means that you have a place on the calendar that's holding it, and we know who's going to be going, when they're going to be going. Nada. Can't find it.
The new round of nuclear negotiations, which has begun in Oman with the assistance and support of our friends, presents a very good opportunity to resolve this issue in a fair, logical, equitable, and mutually acceptable manner. We are seeking to secure our rights on the basis of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, including on the issue of enrichment and the lifting of unjust sanctions.
U.S. military assets continue to flow into the Middle East as diplomatic efforts with Iran unfold. Open source intelligence trackers indicate that more than 112 U.S. Air Force C-17 transport planes have now arrived or are on their way to the region.
He continue to roll into the region. Wait until I read off to you the entire freaking list of hell that we have moved over into that region to knock on Iran's door and to uproot the Ayatollah from power. Fun Bo says scheduled for whoopee. Yeah, no kidding, man. Let's see here. Chris Coons says, aloha, brother. Please shout out my small YouTube channel about gardening and duck raising. Christian Michael, hey, Coons. Well, no, there you go. There is your shout out, my friend. Thank you very much for being a member for 27 months. Y'all go over there and check him out. Now, if it wasn't for, Iranian officials coming out, particularly their diplomatic office, making a statement today, we might be sitting in a little bit of a different situation. We might be able to say that Trey Yinks is maybe on point. And I'm not so sure that he is, if we're going to be perfectly honest, because the United States has been building up a lot of stuff. Now, IRGC's political bureau has came out, and unfortunately, their political publishes on something. Let me make sure I'm reading this right for you guys. It is the Sobe-e-Sadig publication, all right? It is kind of like their official little IRGC communist newspaper, or it's not even fair to call it a communist newspaper, radical Islamic newspaper, right? That most of it's sent out in hard print. You're hard pressed to find any of it online. However, it has been cited multiple times throughout the day. And the person that ended up writing on this thing is one of their main diplomats that ended up coming out of it. All right. Give me one sec as I grab his information. He came out and he said that there is 4 distinct categories that the United States moved into negotiations with Iran with. Right? And so all of this information about these seem to be coming out of Iran. We're not really hearing anything out of the United States. Those four negotiating factors are, one, their nuclear weapons program. They're not allowed to have it. Iran says that they're open to negotiating their nuclear weapons program. Then it goes down to uranium enrichment. Are they allowed to enrich uranium? I think the figure that's been thrown around, although I haven't been able to confirm it anywhere, is like 1.5%, and they'd have to shove everything else out. Iran's not really open to negotiations on that, though they say maybe. Then it gets into funding of proxy terror organizations like the Houthis and Hezbollah. They're not open to that negotiation, nor are they open to negotiation on capping off their ballistic missile programs. So Iran's three main sticking points are ballistic missiles, funding terrorism, and uranium enrichment. Those are the three things they're not willing to bust on. They're more than willing to talk about nuclear weapons, just not those other three. Well, according to the gentleman that ended up publishing this article that I'm referencing, again, that comes like specifically out of there, and it comes straight from, like the IRGC itself. He states that the United States will not further negotiate with Iran unless they agree to those other three. Now that tends to make sense. I don't trust anything that really comes out of the IRGC. Not one iota of information, unless I can confirm it from somewhere. And what I've been able to confirm is that people are saying we have talks that are scheduled later on. And again, this reminds me of the 12-day war. We're scheduling talks with them, but there's nothing scheduled. And according to the IRGC themselves, they're saying that unless they come to the table on their ballistic missile program, funding proxy terror organizations, and uranium enrichment, which, by the way, they've been screaming inside of the UN that they are not going to stop doing, well, the U.S. said we are not scheduling any more negotiations. So then the question comes into what signs have we seen moving forward that the United States is about to be bombing the living hell out of Iran, because you know dang sure and well that we're about to. And there's a lot of people on both sides of the house. They're screaming the United States doesn't have the balls to do it, especially the Israelis. Israelis are super pissed off right now because they're what Trump did last time, basically telling Israel not to drop their last set of bombs that they had. And I think we all kind of want to know what they were going to actually bomb. I mean, I most certainly do, but probably never know. So that's a bit of the problem. Now I'm going to read these things off for you about what the U.S. has built up over inside of the Middle East. All right. And as I read these off, I want you guys to understand that it is a hell of a lot of freaking aircraft. Gentleman that ended up compiling this list of information goes by the name Intel Schizo. He's been putting out a lot of good poop over the last couple of years. I've been following him for a while. He's grown a pretty decent following. Obviously, I don't have the time to go around and just gather all this info up, right? I do rely on reliable sources, so some of this may be wrong. And here's what we have so far that he's been able to track. U.S. Air Force F-16s 12, F-15 Strike Eagles 12, F-15EX 24 total, A-10s 12, F-35s 12, KC-135 Stratatankers 50 frickin' 5, KC-46 Alpha Pegasus 10, MC-130s 2, FA-18s 20, it just keeps going. U.S. Navy AE-18 G6. I mean, it's just incredible. But here's where it starts to get interesting. The Royal Air Force. A lot of people haven't been talking about how much the UK has also been building up their assets over in the region. Now, it wasn't that long ago, and I'm talking a matter of frickin' days, that the entire EU declared the IRGC as a foreign terror organization, jumping in line with the United States and with Canada. So when I see the RAF, or the Royal Air Force, that's building up over within the region, whoo, you better believe that something's coming. Elk Slayer says, Matt, thank you. Good sir, thank you. Peeps on disability, money is tight. Paul from Utah. Well, Elk Slayer, thank you very much, man. I really do appreciate your support. Our fueling capacity is also through the roof as we start taking a look at what he's compiled. The KC-130s, 55, ends up being 4.9 million pounds of fuel. KC-46s, that's another million pounds of fuel. So total, we're looking at almost 7 million pounds worth of air fueling capability that we have. Royal Air Force adds another 250,000. Thanks, Brits. Israeli Air Force obviously has all of their crap over there. And then the U.S. Navy. I did get confirmation of a second aircraft carrier arriving today, so a slight update. 9 destroyers in the region, 2 submarines, command ships, expeditionary sea base, loitering combat. You guys get the freaking idea? We have so much crap over there right now that it would be irresponsible of us not to do anything worse. And then we get into what the freaking RAF has over there, over at Al Adid Air Base, 13 Prince Sultan Air Base 13, Diego Garcia. And I mean, you just keep going, man. They have tons and tons and tons of crap over here. And all of these guys and all of this stuff that has scrolled up over across your screen, as you can see, all these different C-17s that have been landing in the region, they have been tracking every single one of these flight numbers. And so all of this stuff has been just piling into the Middle East, just piling in there, man. It's insane when you actually look at the amount of stuff that we have started building up. Since January, you're talking about over like 100 and something freaking flights that got scheduled and have traveled over there. It's almost like it's insane. I'd have to look at the actual figures and number. 112 U.S. Air Force C-17s. We got an additional 18 flights in progress. I did see some more F-35s that were moving over there. And yeah, it's a lot of hardware that we're moving in the Middle East. And then the question would be why, which I would go back to my earlier assessment, which is we are moving as much munitions into the Middle East as possible in order to defend U.S. forces and also to topple the regime. Regime has stated, that guy that I quoted earlier, can't pronounce his name for the freaking life of me, so I didn't even bother trying it. Squiggly line, jihad. He ended up stating that not only did those negotiations pretty much fail, all right, but in return, after the negotiations, Iran went over and started preparing their ballistic missiles. And there's intelligence right now that came out that said that there is over 1,000 ballistic missiles that Iran has actually prepared for launch in the event of an attack. And information started to come out today saying that the IRGC might attack preemptively just because of everything that's going on. Now, this is an operation that I talked about a little bit earlier today, where the United States military decided to intervene another tanker that was operating over in the Caribbean, and then it was making its way back over to China. This one happens to be a Russian Shadow Fleet tanker. And you guys can see here in just a hot sec that U.S. military ended up boarding this sucker and jumping on it. But they did not board this thing down in the Caribbean or the Caribbean or however the hell you say it, man. I don't know. I blame it on Pirates of the Caribbean. They screwed up the whole way to pronounce that thing. But here you guys can see U.S. forces actually fast roping down onto the ship. Crew members just looking, being like, oh, crap. And then they just sit down and they just accept their freaking fate as guys come around the corner. So what's going on here? And where was this ship interdicted? Well, this ship actually was not interdicted anywhere near the Caribbean. As a matter of fact, when I go over here and open up our good old friend Google Maps, I got to show you guys this because it goes to, in my opinion, show you how much the United States has invested over into the Middle East. So the announcement today said that the United States started tracking it over here in the Caribbean outside of Venezuela. I've been telling you guys, they've been moving this oil between Venezuela and China. Right? Both the IRGC and Russia, and Russian money laundering and Chinese money laundering are both part of it, which is why Iran is such a big deal. Because Iran is the main funnel that these guys end up going through, so we're cutting the legs off of them. We ended up interdicting that vessel in the Indian Ocean. We didn't interdict it in the South Atlantic or the North Atlantic or all the way up over here in the frickin' Med. Nope, we waited for it to get to the Indian Ocean. Now, I want you to think about the amount of military hardware that I just talked about that ended up getting built up over, like in and around the Arabian Sea outside of Iran. If the United States military had so much crap outside of Venezuela, we would have interdicted that sucker in a heartbeat. But it most certainly would seem as if we moved the bulk of our assets over in the Middle East and just decided to wait for it to frickin' tote its little butt over there and we'd interdict it there. That's what I would do. And it also sends a message to China. Earlier today, I was watching and tracking a flight that ended up going from Russia to Iran and then Iran up over into China. It was a lift aircraft, ended up going out. And I'm going to talk about it here in just a little bit, but we also got word, all right, that Russian scientists from one of the nuclear sites over inside of Iran have since been exfilled. They've been pulled out and they've been pulled back to Russia. That, ladies and gentlemen, is also one of the larger deals of an upcoming strike. Like impending, it's coming, inevitable. United States is going to bomb the crap out of Iran. Last time we had, I think it was over 160 Russian scientists that were hanging out at these nuclear frickin' facilities. And the United States was busy negotiating with Russia. And I want you to think about this. We had our negotiations just a few days ago with Iran over inside of Oman. And part of that was going to be the reduction of their uranium enrichment. And if we were going to reduce Iran's uranium enrichment, we would need an intermediary. And that intermediary would have likely been Russia. They would not trust the United States to go in and remove all of that crap because they know we'd find shady stuff on them. But as I said last week, trusting Russia with Iran's enriched uranium might as well be the same as trusting Michael Jackson with Epstein's victims. It literally makes no sense. Quite literally none. So we have Russian scientists pulling out, which is what we waited on last time. And they happen to pull out after the alleged peace talks that took place, where the IRGC is adamant that they turned down pretty much all of our demands as the United States, as the European coalition. I don't even know what we're going to call this whole thing. They turned them all down. They don't want to deal with it. And to make matters even better, we have Benjamin Netanyahu that's scheduled for a visit to the White House tomorrow. Now, tomorrow's Tuesday. Tomorrow's Tuesday. Pretty wild. You know what Wednesday is? Wednesday happens to be the 47th anniversary of the regime, or so I've been told. I continue to forget to double check that. My mind explodes. But it's pretty dang close to the timeline. So the 47th anniversary of the Iranian regime. We also happen to have Trump 47, and we know they love symbolism. So all this crap is about to go through the roof. Sky God coming in, gifting out 20 Speak the Truth memberships, with Incog Faraday coming out, gifting out 5. Holy crap. That is a super chat I just never want to see. Hit the like button. 96 says, I lost my wife, my home, and my job this week. Please pray. Yep, that's happening immediately. Lord, I'm not going to lie. I don't even know the name of the man behind that comment, but I know you do. That is everything in a man's life. That is his one flesh. That is his sanctuary. That is his source of income. That is his masculinity in a nutshell. I can't think of a harder hit to a man. But Lord, I do know one thing, and that one thing is that where two of us gather in your name, that you will be there. And I'm pretty sure we got about 2,000 people in here right now that are gathered listening to this prayer. So I ask that you, Lord, go over to this man, and I ask that you bring him peace, at least for one night, for him to be able to sleep. And Lord, I also ask that you be with him, and that you provide peace to him, not just for the night, but also for the days to come. And Lord, help him to understand that everything happens according to your perfect plan, not in our times, not in our own feelings, but please, Lord, be with that man. We ask these things in Jesus' holy name. Amen. Brother, I am sorry for you. That is, that just sucks, man. I'm really sorry to hear that. You're not going through it alone, though. That I can promise you. That I can absolutely promise you, friend. Sorry, man. All right. Up here on the screen, B-52 bombers were rumored to arrive over inside of Qatar today. I looked into it and actually had AI send me links trying to tell me that B-52s had arrived. And turns out that is a lie. United States currently does not have any B-52s stationed over inside of the Middle East, from what I can tell, at least that they've announced. It was going around and being announced that CENTCOM has B-52s over there. We do not. Corey Cornelius coming in, gifting out a Speak the Truth membership. Thank you, brother. if you guys are seeing rumors of this, it's not true yet. It might be true, but it's not true yet. But just to give you guys an idea of how ridiculous that is, when I first came across it and I thought I had verified it, I was like, well, that's freaking crazy. So I can't remember. I thought it was in Qatar. Maybe it was in UAE. Let's go with UAE because we do have the airbase over there. For them to be landing B-52s there, and I'm just going to take a middle of the road measurement here. We're talking a matter of 150 miles from Iran where they would be. Under 200 miles from Iranian territory. For the United States to stage them over there would be absolutely ludicrous if we're going to be perfectly honest. And I see some of you guys talking about Diego Garcia. Yeah, U.S. was staging heavy bombers over inside Diego Garcia. However, we also end up launching bombers from the United States of America and just flying them around the world blacked out when we want to bomb the crap out of people because we have that capability. What was the thing that like the Biden administration liked toting and the Trump administration liked toting, or not Trump, but the Obama admin are over the horizon capabilities. Yeah, that's what they like to push. Diego Garcia, don't worry, I do have fresh imagery, allegedly, out of Diego Garcia from some Chinese satellites. Now, other thing that I ended up mentioning to you guys not too long ago was radar sites that ended up getting taken out over inside of Iran. We had a picture of it, and I saw one report on it, although it wasn't confirmed, but the picture did match the terrain. It matched everything of a radar site that ended up getting taken out somewhere in this general vicinity. I forget the exact lat long. I can't memorize them. I'm not that good. Vaxis coming in, gifting us Speak the Truth membership. Thank you, sir. But it was generally speaking right down here. All right. Now, today, I'm seeing reports coming out of there. Let me back up this choo-choo train a little bit. Of new Iranian radar systems, the Matla 3 long-range early warning radar that have been deployed over into the southern portion of Iran. Now, it is possible that they're setting up additional mobile radar sites to detect aircraft, detect drones, etc. in the region, or it could be that they're attempting to patch holes. So, again, unconfirmed. Obviously, I don't have a way to go over there and do this. CENTCOM's not putting out statements like that. And even if they did, you guys would just tell me it's Hasbro. However, there is reports that are coming out stating that they are deploying additional radar sites. Skin 92 says, just had a Boeing 777 on flight radar, leave Havana, heading for Moscow. Any more info coming out of plausible Russian equipment movement? I should have, if it's not in the stack, I'll have to go back and find it. But I should have actual Russian flight from Moscow going into Tehran, believe it or not. So Moscow going into Tehran. Now, before the 12-day war of last year, the immaculate 12-day bombing campaign, we saw several aircraft going from Moscow, going into Iran, rumored to be dropping off S-400s. We did get confirmation of S-300s operating over inside of Iran, which would be Russia's, a little bit older aerial defense system that they have. But they didn't prove to be any sort of a match for the F-35s or any of our advanced bombers or advanced jamming systems or anything. The United States didn't even help out in the early days of the 12-day war. And it was under constant bombardment. So I don't know if those were some of the first things that ended up getting taken out by the Israeli Air Force on their first days going into Iran. But I find it very hard to believe that Iran has completely rebuilt as good of a net as they had before the 12-day war. I really find it hard to believe that they would have that good of aerial defense assets refurbished and back in place after all the bombing that ended up taking place less than a year ago. Now, the one thing that they have been doing, and I brought this up to you guys the other day, but the imagery was a little bit older, was Isfahan. Isfahan was one of the main nuke sites that the United States ended up going after. This is their uranium enrichment facility, one of the bigger ones. It's like kind of like built deep and heavy, right in there. And what Iran has been doing, and these images, by the way, are February 8th, right? What they have been doing is fortifying their sites. They have been going around and they've been fortifying this. This is the second set of satellite imagery I saw. First one's coming out, started mid to late January. I want to say it was January 24th was one of the first images I saw of Iran digging in. So Iran, back in January, has been digging in and attempting to cover the entrances of these things. Now, there was a new report that had came out today stating that Iran had actually attained one of our GBU-57s, one of our 30,000-pound bombs that we had dropped, they claimed did not detonate. I do not see any substantiating evidence of that whatsoever. There's other people saying that it could have been one of our, what the hell do we call them? Tomahawk cruise missiles. But from what I have seen, I have been unable to substantiate that our 30,000-pound bunker buster, that thing is going to be buried. Lord only knows how many freaking meters into the ground. Iran would have had to dig it out and not cause it to detonate by shaking all of the ground and yanking it out of there and everything else. And it's not like their EOD guys can go into the ground and work on a bomb that they've never seen before while it's surrounded by freaking granite. It's just impossible. So I find those reports to be very unreliable. I'm just going to be honest with you about it. It would be a scary thought because you could look at having Russia and China getting a hold of that technology or sending some of their folks in there and attempting to reverse engineer it, but I highly doubt it. Now, the big issues as we see on all of this is that we have reports coming out of Iran. We have reports pouring across the Middle East of the United States military assets that are building up outside of Iran. And we have Iran continuing to refortify all of their positions. They were covering the entrances to these things. We had satellite images of them taking dozers and just covering it with frickin' dirt. And I don't know if they thought they were going to be trying to hide it, but that's just silly. Now, it was rumored that we had upwards of 20 of the 30,000 pounders, and I believe we dropped 12 of them. And that doesn't mean that we didn't produce more since June and refill our frickin' supply. It's pretty likely that we ended up doing that. And if we didn't, you bet your butt we're going to drop every last one we have on them and make sure it's all gone. I see a lot of you guys in the comment section. You guys are all calling BS on Iran having the 30,000 pounder. I am also with you. I highly doubt that we only built 20 of these frickin' things and our engineers were dumb enough to make sure that it wasn't set and ready to go and that it wasn't 1,000% going to detonate. I guarantee you those bombs had so many redundant detonation systems inside of them that like the pilots were freaking peeing their pants the moment they armed them. It's just unfathomable to me that that would have happened. So all of these images, all they're doing is confirming to you, and yes, they had multiple entrances on both sides of this ridgeline going into it. As you guys can see here, you have the south entrance and the north entrance, and then it was somewhere up on the ridgeline. I forget, I have to go back. There's a middle entrance, but we ended up dropping all of our bombs on that thing, and they ended up hitting with dang good precision. So if they ended up not going off, I find it very hard to believe that they dug into those mountains and ended up ripping it out of the ground without causing it to detonate. I just don't see it. But either way, Iran is worried about it. Now, Iran was rumored, well, not rumored, Iran had stated that they ended up moving all their enriched uranium out of there prior to the U.S. striking. But immediately following the strike, we were getting satellite images of Iran digging them back out. And I thought for the longest time that by the end of August of last year, the U.S. was going to strike them again because of it. But we never did. Matter of fact, we just let it run. We just let it happen. So, question, is the United States poised and ready to strike Iran? The answer, 1,000%, we are poised and ready to strike Iran. We have more than enough assets built up across the Middle East to wage an holy hell on them. And when we look at what Iran is capable of, every single red dot you see, all right, are freaking military bases of U.S. personnel scattered not just in the Middle East, but also inside, NATO countries. Take a look over at Turkey. Take a look all the way up into the north surrounding the freaking Black Sea. All right. And that yellow ring that's on there is their ballistic missile capabilities of what they're capable of hitting. Chris Feilbach says, wouldn't we have seen them digging on publicly available satellite feeds? It's not like you can just lift 30,000 pounds out of the ground through a tiny hole. Yeah, we probably would have. And dollars to donuts would bet that the United States military, United States intelligence community would have been watching it happen. And if we saw them pull a 30,000-pound bomb out of the ground with our advanced technology inside of it, I would think that we'd put another one right on top of it and just let that sucker surface detonate. Brandon says, you already covered the property manager of the Vegas biolab being released from jail. No, I have not covered that yet. The reason I haven't covered that yet is because I'm focusing on the Middle East right now. I have no problem trying to pull dual roles right now, but I think it's very important that I'm able to focus on Iran because the devil is in the details here. Believe it or not, the amount of research that I'm going over with you guys, for the amount of bull crap that I dug through just to get all of this information to talk to you guys tonight, we're talking about 7 hours worth of research for me to sit here and spew to you for about 45 minutes to an hour. Matt, does Iran have hypersonic missile tech? All ballistic missiles are hypersonic. The hypersonic missile, all right, refers to anything going above Mach 5. Yeah, they got it. Iran's brand new missile allegedly, I think, goes above Mach 8 to like Mach 9, something like that, when it ends up exiting the atmosphere. And it has the capability of going from Iran over to Israel. All right. So from Iran to Israel in about 10 minutes, generally speaking. Those freaking things are smoking when they go out. I forget the amount of hours it takes for the cruise missiles to travel from Iran over into Israel, and the amount of hours it takes for their drones. I will have that information for you guys tomorrow. All right. But ideally, what is really the sticking point for Iran in all of this is their ballistic missile program. And the reason why is the amount that they have. You got to figure it takes 10 minutes for, their ballistic missile to fly from Iran over into any of these different places, right? About 10 minutes. And then you have cruise missiles. Those take quite a long period of time to fly over, multiple hours. And then you have drones. Those take multiple hours. So if Iran wants to attack, right, depending where in this ring of crap that Iran wants to attack, their ability to break through these defenses depends on their coordination of all of those different assets. And so when we start talking about the different fighter jets and things like that we have staged around the region, a lot of people are thinking that those are strictly for bombing purposes, like when it comes to Iran. And it's not true. First thing that they have to do is launch the drones. Then they have to launch the cruise missiles. Then they have to launch the ballistic missiles, and they have to have it all timed so that it's entering into those specific targets at those certain periods of time. Meanwhile, as all of that stuff is fired off in like not rapid succession, but over a duration of time, the United States and coalition forces are going to have fast movers screaming around the Middle East trying to take these things out. They're going to be bouncing back and forth between refueling tankers and landing at their different like munitions depots and stuff across the Middle East just to rearm before they launch back off and go take off after these suckers. So likely a lot of these heavy lift aircraft that we see going over into the Middle East right now, it's not additional troops moving into the Middle East. I think at this point in time, we've moved our aerial defense assets, all right, like our THAAD batteries and things like that over there. And those are likely set up and propped up over inside the Middle East. What we need a lot of is munitions. You think about just some of the missiles, some of the freaking rockets, these fast movers that these different aircraft are shooting, how much they can actually carry. And when you're talking about thousands of munitions being fired by Iran going across the Middle East, you got to have a hell of a lot of aircraft over there, and you got to have a hell of a lot of munitions. Troy Reviews, thank you very much, sir. He says, for the legal fees, and just wanted to say thanks for everything you do for all of us. Appreciate it. We can trust the mainstream. We can't trust the mainstream media. No, sir, you cannot. And we've only got about, 2,400 of you guys hanging out in here tonight as we talk about the situation over inside of the Middle East. And I'm telling you guys, the 2,400 of you that are hanging out with me right now are going to be way more prepared for what's going on when everything goes down. And I see the comment in here. It says, what is it? Trump always chickens out taco. I learned that at one of like the left-wing moron protests this last summer. Here's the deal though. A lot of people like to state that, but what they don't like to understand is the logistics that actually goes into preparing all of this. U.S. obviously has strategic stockpiles of munitions staged around the world. But when we are talking about thousands of drones, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles that are about to be fired by Iran, what the U.S. cannot afford to do as we go in there to topple this regime is to run out of ammo. And so they've got to make sure that that whole logistical aspect of it is set in place. And so when we're talking about all of that being shoved in there, it takes time. It takes time to move it. It takes time to transport it. It takes time to get it on the ground, staged, and get ready to go. Hyper means what? Nuke capability. Hyper doesn't mean anything towards nuclear capability at all. As a matter of fact, United States back in, what was it, like the 60s or 70s, like SF guys used to have like a little man-portable nuke the size of like a propane tank that they'd freaking strap on their crotch and jump out of airplanes with, man. Like you can put nukes on just about anything, all right? But the speed of flight of the missile is everything that they're referring to when it comes down to that. But whether or not Iran has developed a nuke is kind of the question. A lot of people say, no, it's just not possible for them. But here's the scary part that goes into it, is last year before we struck Iran, the United States claimed that we ended up setting them back a very long period of time. Iran, however, claimed differently. And right now, the United States is concerned with their uranium enrichment and along with their ballistic missile program. And the one thing that I haven't heard is the United States sits here and begins to prepare to strike Iran. Is anybody actually coming out talking about whether or not Iran still has a nuclear weapons capability? That was all of the talk of the town like the last time. E.P. Miller, appreciate your donation, friend. That was the talk of the town last time, was whether or not Iran was actually nuclear capable and how long it would take them to get there. We had all sorts of freaking meetings and everything else. But since, not a peep. As a matter of fact, the only thing that the United States started pushing back in January was Iran needs to stop killing its people. And I don't even think that's the case anymore. I don't even think the U.S. gives a damn about that. You guys asked about Diego Garcia. And for those of you guys that don't know, when we start taking a look at Diego Garcia, here we have Iran right up over here. Diego Garcia sits down here, what is it, in the Indian Ocean, like all the way down here, like way down south. It might even be more south than that. So Diego Garcia, what did we end up learning from there? Well, we ended up learning that the U.S. is, in fact, staging assets in Diego Garcia, or so it would seem. Here in this Chinese satellite image that is undated, attempting to verify, but it's purported to be new, we have multiple KC-135 Stratotankers, 3 of them, 2 C-130 Hercules aircraft, and 2 P-8 Poseidons that's down there. Gordon says it's preemptive EMP. Is a preemptive EMP a feasible option? I don't think so. I don't think the EMP is a feasible option for going into Iran, because the one thing that they're going to need is communications. Hear me out for a second. In order for a regime change to be successful, you need to have the military on your side. We need to start seeing those machine guns that are pointed at civilians turn around and start facing everybody else. They need to start facing regime forces. In addition to that, we need to have communications, and we need to know where people are on the ground. Undoubtedly, Mossad has agents on the ground, and those agents or sources that are running around on the ground, all right, that are actually doing this stuff are going to be requesting support. And they're going to have key targets and key infrastructure that's going to need to get taken out in key periods of time. So if we end up not having that stuff like online, it's going to be a bit of an issue. CJ Green says for legal Matt from Colin. Well, thank you, Colin Edinburgh. I appreciate you, sir. Seriously, thank you. I appreciate you guys. That report that ended up coming out of Venezuela, of the guys that were like, the United States used some crazy freaking thing that ended up rattling our brains and we had no idea what was going on. I don't think that was necessarily accurate. Think of the education level of some people and then question whether or not you would take scientific advice from them. Then think about people getting hit overnight and having their president ripped out, and then think about the type of excuses that they would end up in order to make that happen. There was a video that was circulating. I think I might have even showed it back then, the night that had happened, that was trying to state that we had shut all the power off at one time and like the whole grid had like shut down and then stuff started exploding. That video was not true. It was a fake video. All right. And there's a lot of that crap that ends up floating around out there. And I think a lot of people get kind of like caught up. Other image that ended up coming out of Diego Garcia was two things, which was a nuclear submarine, allegedly, and a like refueling tanker, like an actual tanker refueler, if that makes sense. So like a ship that reported and docked over there. So what we didn't get reports of, which is why I kind of go, maybe this is feasible. Maybe this is credible, because what we didn't get reports of over in Diego Garcia was freaking like any of our strategic bombers. The United States doesn't have any of them over there from what's been reported on. And you're talking about Chinese satellite systems and crap like that coming out. So it would almost appear as if we do not have strategic bombers that are prepped in Diego Garcia to go over and bomb Iran. They're not there. Doesn't exist, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the one thing that I do believe, all right, it's the Bashir nuclear facility. Yep, Bashir nuclear facility. Multiple reports ended up coming out confirming that the Bashir nuclear facility, which did have a lot of the Russian nuclear scientists, ended up getting evacuated today, that they got pulled out. And then probably, they call him Prince Razapali, all right, hanging out with Lindsey Graham kind of tells you a little bit about where we're going as well.
We've really risen to the occasion, compelling narrative for the long-suffering people of Iran. And I believe with all my heart that help is on the way. We've really risen to the...
I believe with all my heart that help is on the way. And he sits down there. This morning I played a video from Razapali, and I'll play it again if you guys want me to. It's about, I think it was like 5 minutes long. And yes, he's produced a lot of videos over time. The key things that ended up coming out of his mouth today, though, not Lindsey Graham. The key things that ended up coming out of his mouth today, though, was it had nothing to do with the death of the Iranian people. It had nothing to do with any of that. And what he actually brought out were political talking points of both the United States and of Israel. He said every single thing that was on that list that I brought up. He also brought up making sure that they are not funding foreign terror organizations. He brought up that they are not building nuclear capabilities and that they are going to be partners with the West again. And then he even brought up Iran entering the Abraham Accords, which to me was pretty freaking wild. His talking points today switched. His talking points today had a big switch. And that switch was U.S. and Israeli, I hate to say the word, but propaganda. He is pushing our narratives now. The U.S.'s narrative. He's pushing Israel's narrative. He's pushing for what needs to happen in the move forward. And when we have the EU that just ripped, and declared Iran a freaking FTO, we have the Royal Air Force moving freaking assets into the region. And now we have the Crown Prince coming out screaming U.S. and Israeli stuff. It seems to me like we've got to him, especially as he sits next to our world's favorite warmonger, Lindsey Graham. So it's very feasible to me that the U.S. is in fact going to try to install him. Paul Allen says modern hypersonic missiles that people are afraid of maneuver. Iran does not have those. Russia and China probably don't. U.S. has tested them. Well, here's the thing about those hypersonics. As they go up and they go exoatmospheric and then they exoatmospheric before they start coming down, they have these huge trajectories, right? And there's a limited time for those interceptions of those freaking ballistic missiles. So depending on where the target's at and depending on where the ballistic missile is launched from determines your like highest percentage of interception. And we've only got 50% of that equation when it comes to those, right? And they are hauling freaking balls, man. Make no mistake about it. Even if we say Mach 6, Mach 7, all right, and a pretty much straight downward angle as they're coming in, those things are hauling balls. And so your window to intercept these things is like 30 seconds to a minute max, all right, where you have to have all your technology switched on right on the freaking money, like just boom, ready to launch. They haul balls. That's why it's so important. This guy, honestly, he's probably going to end up getting installed as the freaking government. They're going to have like the military hold it down as an interim government or something like that in the meantime. But eventually he's going to end up getting flown in. And for anybody that doesn't think that's possible, that they're like, well, he's just hanging out with Lindsey Graham. How the hell are they going to get him in there? The same exact way we got Karzai over into frickin' Afghanistan. That man wasn't living in Afghanistan when the U.S. decided to invade. I want to say it was 5th Group, like 5th SF Group, ended up infilling him in via Pakistan and walking his butt up over in there. Battlefield Boys says Thad has entered the chat, and Andre Gleason coming in as well. Thank both of you guys for those huge donations. Appreciate you. So, yeah, if he's gonna get installed into the government, there's a way to do it. And it certainly seems like he's going to. So that is yet another sign in Matt's opinion. Now, we've had his rhetoric change over to a pro-Western way of thinking, all right, and pro-Western narratives as they're coming out. So that's pretty freaking wild. This is something that kind of blew my mind because I ended up seeing the reports come out today. I want you to listen to what Donald Trump has to say in this. A lot of the world's been lied to.
Don't forget, you had October 7th, which was a horrible day, 1,200 people killed. But Hamas has lost 58,000 people. That's big retribution. That's big retribution. People are.
Anybody else hear that figure, or was it just me?
58,000 people.
Hamas has lost 58,000 people. This morning I played a clip. By the way, there's only 71,000 that the Gaza Health Ministry is declaring dead at this time, maybe under 72. But, oh, come on. What did I do with it? Nope. Oh, now I'm going to have to go back and find it. Give me 1 sec. We're talking about 58,000 killed over inside Gaza, and they have been riding pretty hard, all right, on what's taking place over there. I'm looking for something in particular that I want you guys to see. That ain't it. Well, this is part of it. Showed this video this morning. What I'm looking for is additional signs of what's going on. All right. Israel overnight, so now we're rolling up on 36 hours ago, had dozens of guys that tried to sneak into Israel from the West Bank. Dozens. And they ended up capturing all of them. Over inside of Iran, we have this that's taking place. All right. Reportedly, what's taking place inside of this video is IRGC vehicles that have been lit on fire by IRGC forces over on the streets. The people narrating the video got it translated to, Iranian special forces or whatever. But it's not just one or two. You're looking at like 5 or 6 of these vehicles that appear to be lit on fire with officials that are walking around. This is, in my opinion, one of those signs of the things to come. If we are seeing people legitimately defecting on the ground, That is a sign of what is to come. That is a sign, right, that how I told you, when those weapons start flipping around, when they start turning around and they start going after their own people, when they start eating their own, when the IRGC turns around and starts shooting at the other members, that's a sign that things are to come. That's a sign that we're about to start opening up. I told you guys earlier on in the stream, it looks like, right? It looks like the date for these strikes is going to be Wednesday, right? That is what the news is coming out stating, that it's going to be Wednesday. Today over on Polymarket, somebody put a $100,000 bet in that the strikes were going down today. I can't believe it to say that somebody lost $100,000 on these freaking strikes. U.S. military has another problem. I've talked to you guys long and hard about silver and all like the implications and how China has been constraining us in that market as well, and how that affects the U.S. defense industry as well. Pete Hegseth today ended up getting questioned about our defense industry and why it's taking us so long to build back up, because between the wars that were taking place over inside Israel and then also the war over inside Ukraine, our freaking munition supply got vastly depleted.
Thank you. You identified several policy changes the department was implementing to actually speed up and expedite some of the production. I was wondering, what are the specific choke points that you guys have encountered when it comes to regulations, or just like what are the issues? What's the hang up in some of these production facilities? Why have we seen delays on certain projects?
A lot of the hang up has been us. So we gotta look at ourselves first. The way we do business, we've been impossible to deal with. A bad customer who year after year changes our mind about what we want or what we don't want, and then we make little small technological changes, which makes it more difficult for them to produce what they need to produce on time. So we have to fix our own house first, provide clarity, simplify the system, allow more people to access it, give that steady demand signal, which is what we're doing with munitions. I encourage folks to look at the deals we've cut recently with Raytheon, with Boeing, with other companies, Lockheed, on Patriot missiles, on THAADs, on other exquisite munitions.
By the way, all of those companies that he just mentioned have been sanctioned by China. That's right. They've been sanctioned by China, and China ain't going to be doing any business with them, meaning those precious minerals, those precious metals, and everything that we're talking about, they ain't getting them. And the fact that the Defense Department ended up throwing in, what was it, $3 billion-ish, just under $3 billion on a new smelter, makes me wonder if they were not negotiating with Lockheed and everybody else, and that was a big part of it. Like, look, man, we want to build these things for you, but we need cheap metal in order to make it happen. So the Department of War says, okay, we'll just invest all of this money in the brand new smelter. In my opinion, what that ultimately is going to amount to is probably U.S. trying to suppress prices a little bit longer and a little bit further in order to keep that down and to freaking make it happen. I don't know if we're going to be able to be quite honest with you, but it certainly appears that way. Whew, baby. Things are getting out of control. I mentioned Netanyahu's coming to the United States tomorrow. He's going to be in the White House. Him and Donald Trump are going to have a meeting, and then he's scheduled to fly back out. And that the rumors are on the 47th anniversary of the freaking IRGC with President number 47, we're going to end up bombing the crap out of Iran on Wednesday. Yep, certainly appears that way. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this update on the situation for Iran and you feel a little bit more armed with information. It certainly appears as if the U.S. is poised and ready to beat the frickin' brakes off of them. Now, my opinion right now, it's not a matter of if, it's just kind of a matter of when. So when we strike the RGC, that's the real question. But it's not going to be a limited air campaign. It is going to be a massive air campaign. For those of you who are old enough to remember the shock and awe from Iraq, this is going to trump that tenfold, the amount of stuff that we have over there. W Don't Know says, how's the legal fund doing at covering anything close? Gave some. I know we all want to help. Well, thank you very much, sir. Far as the legal fund goes, it had 8,000. Well, no, I'm sorry. I think it's about 7,500 where it was sitting at. And the retainer that I ended up filling last week was $22,000. Yes, sir. 22 grand. So you guys did cover like a massive chunk of that. And I really appreciate you guys doing that. And that doesn't include the donations that ended up coming through on the channel. The way YouTube ends up paying out is we get, basically it's a 30-day lapse. So everything that you guys are donating this month doesn't go through until next month. So I won't see anything from this month until next month. So a lot of things ended up having to get floated in order to make all of those different cuts. I'm talking a lot of other stuff that's out there, ladies and gentlemen. So I greatly appreciate every single person that came in and donated. I mean, that honestly, it warmed my heart how much you guys were actually able to donate and help me out for those legal funds. So thank you guys very much for that. And to update you on that, I do have a phone call scheduled with the attorneys tomorrow. And that's right, attorneys, plural. All right. Ended up getting new counsel that was signed on as well to help out. So I appreciate every single one of you guys that ended up donating on that fund drive that we ended up doing. And hopefully I'm able to get a statement for you guys from my attorney so that you guys know precisely what it is that you are donating to. I did my best to get it out during that video, but just trying to make sure that we kind of keep everything, I don't want to say, I want to make sure that I keep everything correctly worded when we're talking about legal stuff. R. White says, I'm assuming you don't get 100% of these donos. No, I get, let's see here. YouTube takes 30% of them. Rob still gets his cut of the channel, and I am still here. So when people tell you I bought the channel, they're morons. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I, again, greatly appreciate every single one of you guys. I really do. You guys, I would not be able to do what I do if it wasn't for you. And I absolutely love being here for you guys. So thank you guys very much. Do I need to post the link again? I'll tell you guys what, I will post that link tomorrow. I'll make sure I have that for you guys. All right. I don't have it prepared right now, but I'll have it prepared for tomorrow. And hopefully tomorrow evening, I'll have an update for you guys as well. You need to make your legal fund a permanent post on the top of the stream. Yeah, I probably do, my friend. I really do. And you guys are just great. Should put the PayPal link in every stream, mate. All right, let me go grab it for you guys. I'll throw it in there. All right, you guys are hitting me up for it. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I should probably do that. You are correct. Oh, it wasn't even that hard to find. Copy link address. That was actually easy for me to grab. There you go. So that will be pinned up there. So just pinned it up at the top of the stream. If you guys are curious about donating it, there's some information over there. It is a $5.3 something million lawsuit. Can't make that crap up. So if you guys would like to donate to that, by all means, fairly confident we're going to end up coming out on top. And tomorrow I'm going to give a shout out as well to the nonprofit Legal 1A Defending Our First Amendment Rights Foundation that actually signed on to help me out. Also ask that you guys would donate to them when I end up getting that out as well. So you guys are freaking amazing human beings. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you guys very much for what you do. Thank you guys for every donation that you guys end up making. And always thank you guys for showing up and watching the stream and supporting me in my endeavors to keep you guys informed. Peace, love, happiness, and God bless. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm out of here.
Sandra, good afternoon. Indirect nuclear talks are set to resume this week between the United States and Iran in Oman. Iranian officials have ruled out discussing their country's ballistic missile program, but do appear open to finding a diplomatic solution to avoid a large war.
The new round of nuclear negotiations, which has begun in Oman with the assistance and support of our friends, presents a very good opportunity to resolve this issue in a fair, logical, equitable, and mutually acceptable manner. We are seeking to secure our rights on the basis of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, including on the issue of enrichment and the lifting of unjust sanctions.
U.S. military assets continue to flow into the Middle East as diplomatic efforts with Iran unfold. Open source intelligence trackers indicate that more than 112 U.S. Air Force C-17 transport planes have now arrived or are on their way to the region. The USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier and strike group also remains in the Arabian Sea.